So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and today we'll be discussing Indian Express and happy Raksha Bandhan to all of you. Since it was weekend, so we'll be discussing the newspaper of 17th, 18th as well, and along with that we'll be discussing 19th newspaper, and then we will be trying to take as much as article as possible which are actually important for us. Okay, and looking at the weekend's paper, there was nothing much which has been discussed in the Indian Express, so don't worry about that. So we'll start with the important articles. Like here you can say lateral entry bay. So recently UPSC has come up with the you can say notification with respect to nearly 45 appointments through the lateral entry. So we'll be discussing what is lateral entry, why it is significant for us. Okay, and then solar panels and domestic industry. Okay, so you know that India is trying to give this impetus to the first of all renewable energy, and second thing is the made in India. Okay, but there are certain issues which are related to it, and we'll be talking about the domestic industry here, as well as we will see what is the difference when in the prices when we see if a solar panel is imported and the one which is built in India. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Then moving further, we'll be saying oil import dependency rose to more than 88%. I took liberty to write it 88%, but it is more than 88%. So basically what we are saying is that we are only fulfilling our demands. If we talk about nearly 11 to 12% of our domestic oil demands we are fulfilling by ourselves, rest we are dependent on the oil imports. Okay, so we'll be talking about this article as well. Now since this is an issue, that is why this particular you can say solar panels and the renewable energy becomes important for us. Okay, other than that, we'll start with the practice question, and then we will be looking at the section that is know our constitution. We are done with the fundamental rights. Now we will be moving to the next part, that is directive principle of state policy, that is DPSPs. So we'll be talking about that. Okay, so let's start. So the question which was given to you in the previous lecture, that is related to article 44. Okay, we have discussed the UCC uniform civil code, and with respect to that we have actually given this question: which of the following best describe the provisions of article 44? It mandates the creation of uniform civil code. So option A is the right answer. You don't have to read through all these you can say options only, but when we are talking about the right to free speech, you know that is article 90. Okay, when we talk about it deals with the regulation of religious practices, we know that it is article 25, 26, which are related to freedom of religion. Then it provides for the protection of minority rights, you know that is 29 and 30. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now moving further, and we'll be starting, or we'll be seeing the constitution again. We have completed part 1, part 2 and part 3. Part 1 was related to your union and territories, then second was related to your citizenship, and third was related to fundamental rights. Now moving to the part 4, that is directive principle of states policy. When we talk about article 36, article 36 gives the definition of the word state. Okay, because since we are saying that these are the directive principle of states policy, and these are the direction which has been given by constitution to the state. Okay, now who is state over here? So that definition has been given in the you can say article 36. Mostly you will consider that every government organ, government body, any administrative body, executive body, or anything which is working in the public domain. So that is basically related to you can say states over here. Now then if we talk about the article 37, article 37 talks about the application of the DPSPs. So when we talk about these DPSPs, these are not directly judiciable. Okay, so basically for them to be judiciable, you need to have an act. Okay, now government, based on their resources, they can go for the enactment of a particular act. When we talk about DPSPs related to education, now we have right to education. Okay, so that is how they made it actually judiciable. Okay, other than that also, when we talk about let's say equal wages etc., when we talk about the you can say labor laws, labor forces, now we have the labor codes. Okay, and because of these labor codes, if there is any direction or directive which is given in the you can say directive principles, that can be judiciable. Okay, so that is about the application of you can say that is your DPSPs. Okay, that is given in the article 37. Now after that becomes important, that is our article 38, that basically talks about or you can say what kind of guidelines these are. Okay, so let's see. Article 38 says the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people by securing and protecting a social order, by ensuring social, economic, and political justice, and by minimizing inequalities in income, status, facilities and opportunities. Ultimately, these are, you can say, socio economic rights. When we talk about fundamental rights, these are political or civic rights. Okay, now when we look at these DPSPs, these are socio-economic rights, because they are working in a sphere where we are trying to reduce the inequality. We are trying to make sure that everyone is getting the equal opportunity, they have the equal status. Okay, so basically here we can say that these are socio-economic rights, which is clear from the Article 38. Now moving to Article 39, the state shall in particular direct its policy towards securing. Then there are certain rights which are given, but before that, here you can see state shall. The word used over here is shall, and that means that constitution is mandating the state. Okay, but the thing is here they are placed in the directive principles, because we know that state has limited resources, and because of the resource crunch there are times you cannot go for implementation of all. So as and when required, as and when they have the resources, they will go for the implementation of that. Okay, so state shall in particular and direct its policies towards securing right to an adequate means of livelihood to all citizens. Okay, the ownership of and control of the material resources shall be organized in a manner to serve common good. Then the state shall avoid concentration of wealth in few hands, equal pay for equal work for both men and women, the protection of strength and health of the workers, childhood and youth shall not be exploited. So basically, if you look at the nature of the directions which are given, these are basically related to the equality, or when we talk about the, if we say equal pay over here. Okay, other than that, we are saying that concentration of, you can say, wealth should be avoided. So basically they are trying for a judicious distribution of the resources. Okay, the common goods which are there, we are trying to make sure that we are distributing them in a, you can say, equal manner. Okay, so this is the nature of your, you can say, DPSPs. Okay, right now we will be discussing this much. In the next session we will be discussing more articles. Okay, now moving further and starting with the first article of the day, that is related to the lateral entry. Now there was this UPSC advertises 45 lateral entry posts plot to keep SC/ST away from the quota, says Kharge. Okay, so that is the statement of opposition. Right now we will not go into the politics of it. Okay, but we will be seeing what is lateral entry. We will see what are the advantages and the disadvantages. Okay, we will try not to give a conclusion right now. Okay, now if we look at the lateral entry, it began in 2018 after the Niti Aayog, and there was another sectoral group of secretaries on governance committee, and on the recommendation of that they have come up with the lateral entry. Okay, now you know that the normal procedure of the recruitment in the, at the level of joint secretary etc. is that an IAS got promoted to that particular level. So it takes around 15 to 17 years for that kind of promotion. But right now when we talk about the lateral entry, that will be a direct entry from the private players. Most of the time you will be seeing that is from the private player, because they hold certain kind of experience. Okay, so on the basis of their expertise they will directly hold a position in the governance, and that is what the idea behind lateral entry. Okay, now let's see, the UPSC Saturday sought application for lateral entry from the private sector, state and union territory government and PSU employees for 45 posts of joint secretary, directors and deputy secretary across 24 central ministries, which will be filled through the contract basis. Okay, now that is the idea of the lateral entry. We will see what is the definition, what are the advantage and the disadvantage. Okay, so let's see. Lateral entry is needed because contemporary times require the requirements are, because when we look at the highly competitive nature of the markets now, or the kind of scenario we are living in, that is highly competitive, so we require a person who is skilled. Okay, so contemporary time require highly skilled and motivated individuals at the helm of the, you can say, administration, without which the public service delivery mechanism do not work smoothly. When we see what is the basic difference between the public sector and the private sector, most of the time we will see that the public sector has lesser efficiency, because at the top the people who are sitting over there, they are secure about their job, they are not being, you can say, monitored. Okay, when we are talking about this level of the skills, they are not updating themselves. Okay, that can be a reason because of which there is lack of you can say efficiency in the public departments. But in the private sector or the corporate, you will see there is a high productivity. If a person who is not productive enough, he will lose their job. Okay, so ultimately that is why that kind of efficiency is there in the corporate sector. But right now when we talk about this particular you can say lateral entry, we are saying that we need highly skilled and the motivated individuals at that particular place. Okay, so that is why, that is the idea behind it. So here you can see lateral entry is needed because contemporary times require highly skilled and motivated individuals at the helm of the administrative affairs, without which public service delivery mechanism do not work smoothly. However, the success of lateral entry hinges entirely on how it is designed, on what basis you are taking these people. Okay, if there is a favoritism of the nepotism, then it might not work. But the thing is, if there is an efficient manner in which, efficient and the transparent manner in which you are taking the recruitments, then there are high chances that you can bring a reform over here. Now coming to the next part, that is basically what are the advantages of the lateral entry. Okay, looking at it, specialized knowledge. Since a person who is having some kind of expertise, who has worked in that particular area, let's say there are 45 posts, okay, and one is related to, you know, some department of you can say industry related, industry and commerce ministry, they have some kind of vacancy over there. Now if they are taking a person who has worked for 10 to 15 years in the private sector and he has that kind of expertise, he had been at the, you know, management level, okay, in that case there are high chances that he can contribute in a positive manner to the, you can say, ministry or the department. Okay, so specialized knowledge brings in niche expertise. Niche expertise means that there is a particular realm in which he has the expertise. Okay, that is, you can say that there is this functional specialization, okay, needed for the complex governance issues. Then second is filling the gap, addressing the shortage of the IAS officer. Okay, now since there is shortage of IAS officer and we are not directly filling that, because as I told you, there is a process of 15 to 17 years, that kind of experience is required to, you know, move to that particular position. Okay, and this person who is from outside industry, he is already having an experience of 15 years or 14-15 years, and then he can be recruited over here. Then moving further, that is work culture changes, introduces values of efficiency and performance, reducing red tapeism. Since as I told you, private sector has efficiency, so there are high chances there can be efficiency which can be imparted in that. Okay, performance based monetization will be there, or you can say people will be monitored on the basis of the performance. And third thing is red tapeism will be reduced. Okay, that you can say moving of files around, that is you can say a particular characteristics of our Indian diplomacy, or you can say Indian work culture when we are talking about the public sector. But if there is a person who is from the private sector, that there might be chances that he can go for reforms which might reduce the red tapeism. Then moving next to the next, that is participatory governance. Okay, integrates private sector and the non-profit perspective into decision making. Okay, since he has been in the private sector, he has the experience of that private sector, he knows what are the demands of that particular sector. Okay, so there might be a integration, or you can say participation of the stakeholders. Okay, more representative decisions can be taken over here. Okay, now moving further here, what are the arguments against it? Okay, outsourcing expertise can be assessed through the existing mechanism and not just through the permanent hires. Okay, now we are saying that since we are going for the lateral entry, so you can go for the, you can say, outsource of the service and not take people in the, you can say, administration. That is one thing. Second is cumbersome process, difficulty in adapting to the bureaucracy and network building within the limited time. Since this person is outsider, so he has to work in the bureaucracy now, so in the limited period of time, because these are the contractual basis appointments. Okay, contract basis appointment are there, so basically he has to make connection whenever you are going to into a department to make sure that everything is working smoothly. So you should have a proper connections over there, you should understand the working of that particular department, but in a very limited time that might not be possible. That is one thing. Okay, he will feel outsider, and the other people who are working over there, then they might also not be comfortable with someone who is coming from outside. Then profit motive versus public service, challenges in shifting from a profit driven mindset to a public service focus. Now since this is a person who is coming from the corporate mindset, or he is coming from a private sector which is profit driven, and now when we are talking about the public sector is a non-profit endeavor, or you can say that even if there is an you can say aspect of public service which is attached to it, so that change in the mindset might not be very smooth. Okay, moving further, conflict of interest, risk of conflict of interest in requiring stringent code of conduct. As I told you, this person is from the private sector, he might have contacts in the private sector. Now since he is here, there might be a conflict of interest. That is basic. Okay, so these are the, you can say, advantages and the disadvantages with respect to the lateral entry. Right now this would be enough for your preparation. Now let's moving further, we will be talking about another article which is related to the solar modules which we were talking about. Okay, despite red flags, ministry reimposes the solar module list of domestic players. Okay, now when we are talking about the solar module list, there are certain domestic players which are making solar modules, and the government right now has come up with an idea wherein they are saying that whatever requirement of the solar modules are there, that had to be sourced from the local manufacturers and not from the imports. Okay, since they are saying that whatever our targets are there, we are quite close to that, and that is why we can go for the local sourcing of the solar panels and not from the China. Mostly we are dependent on China with respect to the solar panels. Okay, and other than that, if we talk about the local manufacturing of the solar panels also, that is not even manufacturing, that is assembling of the solar panels. What happens is that in solar panels we use solar cells, and these solar cells are built in China. We import the solar cell from China and then we try to assemble them over here, and then it is called a solar module or a solar panel. Okay, so now coming to the issue over here, despite concern flagged at the highest level in the government over market concentration in India's solar PV modules industry and its potential to inflate household electricity tariff, the Ministry of the New and Renewable Energy imposes its mandate to requiring solar project to source modules exclusively from a government approved list of domestic manufacturers starting from April. Okay, this is saying that there are certain concerns. Okay, these concerns are there. Despite that, the ministry has gone for a particular, you can say, order. Okay, wherein they have said that the energy it's saying that the requirements of the solar projects, okay, whatever solar panel requirements are there, that should be exclusively from the government approved list of domestic manufacturers. Okay, now when we talk about the domestic manufacturers in India, there are quite 4 to 5 prominent manufacturers, and then there are others. Okay, so government has come up with a list, the ministry has come up with a list, and now if there is a project which is government assisted, or the, you can say, there is some kind of financing which has been given by the government, in that case you have to source these modules from the you can say that particular list only. Okay, now here there are certain concern which has been flagged, we will be talking about that. Here you can see rising cost difference. Now domestic solar modules, as I told you, there is a difference between the price of the domestic solar modules and the you can say imported ones. Okay, domestic solar modules are now 90% more expensive than the imports. And why is that? We will be seeing in the next slide why the domestic ones are 90%, you can say, expensive. Okay, the gap has widened since financial year 22, when the domestic prices were 6% higher than the imports. Okay, so at that point of time these are 6% higher, and now this is gap is a huge gap which we can say. Okay, now here you can see the ALMM order. Okay, when we are talking about this ALMM order, that is approved list of models and the manufacturers, that, as I told you, government has their own list. Okay, that is the approved list of the models and the manufacturers. Orders mandate all government assisted and associated solar projects to use only enlisted modules, effectively barring the use of imported modules in the most projects. Okay, so basically they are saying that you are not to use the imported modules. The order aims to bolster domestic clean technology manufacturing and enhance energy security by reducing the import dependence. Now the idea behind is that, first, we are trying to give the push to the local industry, that is fine. Second thing is, we are trying to give push to the renewable energy, that is also fine. But the thing is, these are 90% more expensive. Who will buy that? Okay, so that is one thing. Okay, moving further, when we are talking about this particular thing, it was imposed permanently due to the insufficient domestic manufacturing capacity, which in turn was slowing the addition of the solar capacity. Right now when we talk about this, the government has said that you have to buy from this list only. That means that there are certain incentives which has been given to these particular manufacturers. Okay, now as I told you, there are 4 to 5 only. That means that there are high chances that there can be a monopoly. Okay, so that is a concern which has been flagged. Second thing, if we look at it, that can also give an impetus that government is supporting the sector, and that is why there are high chances that other members of the industry might also invest in that. Okay, so that is the speculation as of now. Now moving further, here we'll be seeing certain things like what is the concerns, that is high cost. As I told you, that is the 90% more the domestic you can say producers are charging. Okay, domestic modules are 90% more expensive than the import. Concern of excessive profiteering by domestic manufacturers. Okay, now this is the concern because as I told you, there are 4 to 5 which are prominent and that might go for the monopoly. So because of which there can be excessive profiteering. Okay, then market concentration. Now 5 companies control nearly 50% of the ALMM listed capacity. Okay, 5 companies and having more than 50% of the capacity. Risk of reduced market competition, that is what monopoly is. Okay, now here you can see this is not a make in India. They change a hefty they charge hefty margin for the same. As I told you, this is not make in India. The idea behind is obviously Atmanirbhar Bharat, make in India, but the thing is ultimately we are purchasing the solar cells and we are just assembling them here. Okay, if we are to produce these solar cells in India, then only there can be, you can say, reduction in the prices. Okay, but that is not happening right now. Now here you can say it has been stated that the present prices of the cell in China is around 6 cents. Okay, 6 cents. Since we are talking in dollar terms, so we are saying that the present price of the manufacturing of a cell in China is 6 cents. Okay, then after that there is a imposition of 25% duty. Okay, and that comes to 7.5 cents. Okay, now you see the fabrication cost is not more than 7 to 8 cents. Okay, 7.5 to 8 cents. So we can say that if we import from China, we are getting it from 8 cents. Okay, then therefore the module should be available for 16 cents. However, the module manufacturers are charging 23 to 24 cents. Right now, if we are talking about the China's prices, these are the cells which are, you can say, 8 cents per cell, and then if we are talking about the module, that module will cost nearly around, you can say, 16 cents. Okay, but right now if we look at the manufacturers in India, they are charging somewhere over 24 cents. Okay, so this is what we are trying to say, that since they are getting it from China, okay, after that also they are getting excessive profits. Okay, so that is the concern, and because of which you can say that in India these modules are quite expensive. Okay, now we can move further, that is these are the companies which are there when we are talking about the ALMM list. As I told you, there are 5 prominent companies. These are given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the other companies which are holding the other 50% of the share. Okay, but still the idea behind here is that there might be a chance that people think that government is giving impetus to the domestic industry, that there can be a positive sign for that and there can be investments in that, and ultimately that will help the reduction in the price. Okay, so that is about it. Now we can move further to the next article, which is related to small satellite launch vehicles. Okay, now when we talk about the launch vehicles in India, so ISRO has their after the development, when we talk about the various stages of the development, there have been various developments in that area, and after that we have come up with the PSLVs, and there are various models of the PSLVs. Then we have come up with the GSLV. Okay, so when we are talking about the near Earth satellites or the Earth observation satellite, okay, so for that we are using PSLVs, and for the geosynchronous, okay, we are using the GSLVs. Okay, since GSLV has to go far, that is why the capacity is little more, you can say, less than the PSLVs. Okay, but now these are the, you can say, vehicles which are basically taking nearly 4,000 to 4,000 tons. These are basically the capacities of, you can say, PSLV and GSLV. Okay, that is given somewhere over here maybe. Okay, so that is there. So when we are talking about the PSLV, GSLV, their capacity is around 2000 to 4000 kgs. Okay, but the thing is, if you have to send a small satellite, okay, so that small satellite has to be dependent on the bigger satellites. Whenever there will be a bigger satellite, along with that the small satellite will go. Otherwise, for the small satellite you will not be sending such a big launch vehicle. Okay, and that is why ISRO has come up with the idea of the small satellite launch vehicles, and we have tested it and now it is ready. Okay, now since we have the small satellite launch vehicle, it will be given to the commercial arm of the ISRO, and then it will provide services to other, you can say, small nations which are actually trying to get into the space, and they do not have bigger satellites, they have the small satellites. Now in that case, you can say that there can be group of 4-5 satellites that can be sent via this small satellite launch vehicles. Okay, now we know that we have New Space India Limited, we have Antariksh, these are the commercial arms of the ISRO. Okay, now coming to the article, Indian Space Research Organization successfully launched the third development flight of the small satellite launch vehicle from the Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota on Friday. Earth observation satellite EOS-08 precisely sent into the orbit. Now this is the satellite which they have actually sent. As I told you, when we are talking about the smaller height satellite, or you can say in the vicinity of Earth, these are the Earth observation satellites. Okay, and they are in the Earth orbit. Okay, near Earth orbit. Now the it marks the completion of the ISRO and the Department of Space SSLV's development project, New Space India Limited, ISRO's commercial arm, and India's private space industry can now produce SSLV for the commercial missions. Now what they are saying is that one thing is the commercial arm of the ISRO, that is New Space India Limited, that is one thing. Second thing is that even private sector can avail it. Okay, since we are giving impetus to the private sector to take part in the defense as well as the space industry, and in the space we are giving it a push, and this New Space India Limited is the arm which is helping the private sector to be part of the space endeavors in India. Okay, so basically now private sector can also take part in it. Now coming to what is an SSLV, now it is a 3-stage launch vehicle. Okay, when we talk about these stages, these are the stages when we are talking about the launch vehicles, when they are sent back into the space with 1 or 2 or 3 stages. At every stage, one of the part of that particular satellite will get detached. Okay, and that is that you can say that it is a debris, because that is the part which is holding the fuel. When that fuel is used, then it will be discarded. Okay, so this is a 3 you can say stage launch vehicle. Now coming to the next part, that is these are the 3 solid propulsion stages. Earlier what used to happen is that these parts of the launch vehicle, they used to get removed and you cannot reuse the launch vehicle. Okay, but recently India is also trying that we are to reuse the launch vehicles, and that is why there can be a scenario in the future. We will see that all of these fuels will be used in a similar same container, wherein there will be different stages, but there will no debris which can be created. But as of now, it is the 3-stage launch vehicle, and it is having all of the stages as solid stage. When we talk about the GSLV sector, they have to go for the very long distances, and that is why we use cryogenic fuel as well. Okay, cryogenic fuels, these are the fuels which are having hydrogen and oxygen over there. Liquefied oxygen will be there at the very low temperature. Okay, so these are the cryogenic. Cryo means you can say very cool, or at a very minus, when we are talking about the temperature would go around in the minus 100 or something like that. I'm not sure about it, but the thing is it will be very, very cold. Okay, so that is about the cryogenic engines, that is for used in the GSLV Mark 2, Mark 3, etc. Now essentially the aim behind SSLV is to produce low cost launch vehicles, short turnaround times, and minimum infrastructure needs. Okay, so since these are the launch vehicle for the small satellites, obviously we would not want to spend much on that, so that is why they are optimal, they are efficient, they are also, you can say, affordable. Okay, so that is there. Other than that, as I told you, for the smaller satellite to go into space, they used to wait for the bigger satellite, but now that is not the case. You can directly go for that. Now SSLV is the smallest vertical at 110 ton mass at the ISRO, and it will be having when we are talking about the other launches, you have to wait for nearly 72 hours. It will you have to wait for nearly 70 days, but this will be launched at you can say endeavor nearly around 72 hours. Okay, only 72 hours to integrate, unlike 70 days taken for the launch vehicles like PSLV and GSLV. Only 6 people will be required to do the job, and instead of 60 people earlier, and the price that would be nearly around 30 crore. Okay, so that is there. Now other major rockets, as I told you, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, that is PSLV, Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, that is GSLV, more than 50 successful launch. When we talk about the PSLV, we call it as the workhorse of ISRO, okay, because most of the time it has given the successful launches. Okay, so that is there. Okay, more further, when we are talking about GSLV has been instrumental in launching the communication satellite. Okay, mostly the communication satellite will be going into the geosynchronous orbit, and in the geosynchronous orbit, since these are at the very high distances or long distances, and that is why we need GSLVs. GSLV are two types right now when we are talking about, that is one Mach 2, that is having a capacity of 2200 kg, and there is this Mach 3, that is the recent and the most powerful ones, that is having a capacity of 4000 kgs. Okay, so I hope that is clear now. Now we can move to the next article. Okay, government launches geospatial decision support system for the agriculture. Okay, now when we are talking about the geospatial decision support system, so basically that is nothing but the when we are talking about the geospatial or the particular location, okay, or particular land parcel, and considering the satellite images or the, you can say, remote sensing, etc., etc., we will be going for the decision making for that particular land parcel or that particular agricultural field. Okay, and that things will be informed to the farmers, and accordingly farmer can take the decisions over here. Krishi Decision Support System, that is KDSS portal, a geospatial platform that will function as a repository of standardized data from weather to soil, crop to reservoirs and groundwaters, beside integrating data on the government scheme and services. Okay, so basically when we are talking about the digital public infrastructure, you know that India is giving this push to digital public infrastructure. We are trying to make everything digital right now. Okay, so that we can actually monitor every activity when we are talking about the efficiency of the schemes, etc., etc. Okay, so basically that is why this is also a part of digital public infrastructure, wherein we are creating a portal, that is KDSS portal, wherein we will be providing all this data. Okay, it is aimed at development of the innovative farm centric digital services and making timely reliable information available to the farmer for the better decision making. The announcement was made in the budget, and now we are coming up with this particular system. Okay, now this is under the Ministry of Agriculture and the Farmers Welfare. The Krishi DSS is a geospatial platform which have been specially designed keeping in mind the requirement of the Indian agriculture. It will provide vast data including the satellite images, weather information, reservoir storage, groundwater levels and soil health information. So basically whatever elements which are creating the backward linkages, okay, these are basically the information related to that will be given through this particular portal, so that you can say the farmers can take a better decision, because obviously since the groundwater level is told, the reservoir storage is told, they will be able to make their irrigation optimum, or they will be able to make better decision with respect to the irrigation, etc. Okay, now space technology can play a transformative role in the agriculture sector. The government's focus is on farmer and the aim to increase the farmers income. How space sector will be important? Obviously this remote sensing or the satellite imaging, that is coming from the space sector only. Now the engagement between the Ministry of Agriculture and the space sector goes back to 1969, when for the first time an experiment was undertaken to examine the disease in the coconut plant using the remote sensing technique. Since then we are using it in various forms, and they have launched various satellites including IRS series, that is the remote sensing series is there. Okay, India's remote sensing series is there. Then moving further, the global navigation satellite refractory, that is GNSSR payload that provides information about the soil moisture, wind speed, which will be very helpful in the agriculture sector. So that is not very important, just general point that the agriculture is being very handy, the space sector is being very handy when we are talking about the agriculture forecasts. Okay, so that is about this article. From this article, what is the key takeaway? That is your Krishi Decision Support System, that is KDSS portal. Okay, and this is under the Ministry of Agriculture, and you can say. Now moving further, next is rising demand, stagnant output pushes oil import dependency beyond 88%. Now when we are talking about India, you know that India is the world's third largest consumer of crude oil. Okay, that is one thing. Second, we are one among the top importers as well, because obviously we have the reserves, but the thing is we don't have the capacity to go for the more and more refining, etc. When we are talking about India, we are also going for the products or the crude products. We are also when we are talking about the petroleum products, we are actually exporting petroleum products. But the thing is, the crude oil we are not exporting, because there is this government ban, that is India cannot actually export the crude oil, because obviously our own demands are not being fulfilled in India. When we are talking about only 11 to 12% of the, you can say, our consumption is being produced in India when we are talking about the crude oil. Other than that, we are actually getting it from the, you can say, world around. So nearly 88% right now, if we talk at the first, if we look at the first quarter's data, 88% of the our you can say crude oil demand is been fulfilled from the imports. Okay, so here you can see from financial year 2018-19, we have seen that the demand, actually there was this 85%, that was the, you can say, imports at that point of time. After that there was a reduction because of the COVID year, and then you can see 85, 87, 87, 87, 88. Okay, so that is increasing. Now government is trying to give push to the renewable sector, you can say electrical vehicles, etc., etc., so that the less dependence can be there on the oil. But obviously there has been increase in the electrical vehicle, but since we don't have that much of the charging infrastructure as well, and that is why the concrete change cannot be there, and this is one of the reasons that we are still dependent on the oil. Okay, and we are going for the imports as well. Now industry also needs oil, and when we are talking about the domestic production, that is less, and that is why we are dependent on the, you can say, imports. Okay, so that is about this particular article. You can go through it. We have discussed this so many times that we don't have to go through it. But the thing is, recently you can say that earlier it was somewhere around 85%, that has increased to 87%. Now it is 88% in the last quarter. Okay, we have discussed that why it was less. This is during the COVID time. Okay, other than that, when I told you about the you can say renewable energy, that includes the electric mobility, biofuels, etc., alternative fuels we are trying to go for. Other than that, when we are talking about the electric mobility, as I told you, we are also other than the electric mobility, we are also going for the blending of the oil. Okay, so we are going for the ethanol blending, etc., etc., so that is also there. So that is about this particular article. Now moving to the last part, that is basically telling numbers. There was this one particular, you can say, this picture was given with respect to the Indian diaspora in USA. Okay, so there is this particular body, that is Indiaspora in US based. It is a non-profit body, and they have come up with the report that is small community, big contribution, boundless horizons, and the Indian diaspora in United States. So they have actually mentioned the contribution of Indian diaspora. So I'll go through 1 or 2 points over here. There are 5.1 million Indian diaspora which are there in US. Okay, why this particular data becomes important right now? Because right now you know that there are elections in USA. Other than that, USA is also a, you can say, very cordial partner with India. So that is why we have, when we are talking about the 72 of total 648 startups or the unicorns which are there, okay, 72 are Indians out of that. Okay, then you will see 60% of all US hotels are owned by Indian owners, somewhere Indian Americans. Okay, then here you can say 35 to 50% convenience stores in USA, they are basically owned by the Indian Americans. Okay, 300 billion is the contribution in the tax revenues. Okay, so that is why India is so important for USA, and vice versa is also true, because these are sending us remittances. Okay, so that is there. Now moving further, for your own read, there is this one article from the yesterday's newspaper, that is Center finalized tender to produce 1000 GPUs under India AI mission. Okay, GPU is basically your graphics processing units. When we have discussed the national AI mission, we have discussed about this, so you can go through it again. Okay, so right now the target is, that is 1000 GPUs. Okay, so you can go through this. Now last, that is basically your practice question. Which country is primary source of imported solar panels for India, US, Germany, China and Japan? In today's discussion we have actually discussed this particular point, so you can attempt this question and answer in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave. Till then, I'll be meeting you in the next session. Till then, have a good day. Thank you. I'll see you.